So one of the unique aspects of this channel, and one that may be part of the reason why you visit this channel, is that we take a look at Tesla and Tesla stock, not just in terms of Tesla's specific benefits and features and what are the new products that they're coming out with, and the stock performance is not just based on those fundamentals. All of it is also taken into it takes into consideration things like the general overall economy, the general nature of the stock market, the direction that it's taking. We also take a look at things that nobody takes a look at, like demographics. And that's what we're going to be talking about today. We're going to be talking about demographics and the impact that's going to have on the overall economy, the stock market, and Tesla stock. So this is Randy Kirk. Please hit like and subscribe and notify. Of course, tomorrow morning, we've got the banks. They're going to be starting their reporting. We'll get two banks reporting before I come on in the morning. You're going to want to hear about that. That's going to be really important. Later in the day, we'll have another, I forget now. I'm sorry. I think maybe it might be yet one more Brian Wang video that we have for tomorrow midday, and then of course the Friday night with Larry Goldberg, where we take a look at the week in review. And boy, there will be a lot to review this week. So hit notify so you can be notified about all that stuff. And of course, we will talk at the end a little bit more about Patreon and about, of course, the cyber opener. And I'm sure that you still probably, there's one or two of you out there that haven't ordered yours yet. All right, let's talk about then. First of all, why do demographics matter, and why doesn't anybody pay attention to it? It's one of these frustrating things for me. I remember back when I was in high school and I was first getting the idea. I've always been very interested in analytics, and I was taking a look at things and I'm going, okay, maybe this was college, and I started to say, okay, the baby boom is only going to last so long. What happens next? And then later on, the baby boom did end. And do you know that there's 1 million less people per year? 1 million. It went from 4 million babies being born per year to 3 million babies being born per year when the baby boom ended. That was a dramatic drop. And somewhere along the line, I asked myself, isn't that going to affect grade schools? Aren't people going to wonder why they have so many grade schools when the lack of children starts hitting kindergarten and first, second, and third grade? Well, nobody paid any attention. They just kept building grade schools. And of course, the obvious thing happened. Demographics have major impacts, and people that don't pay attention to demographics are going to miss opportunities. Well, the baby boom, I'm not saying this because I'm a part of it, but the baby boom has been a controlling factor in the American economy ever since then. And it's a very large component of the economy. The baby boom has been the only group to lead America for the last, I'd have to go back and look at the actual stats, but you have these old people, older than me, who still think they should be running America and running the Senate and everything else. There just is nobody from the X generation that is standing up or is meeting the grade where the population is willing to put them in charge. So the baby boom has really become a very, very important part of what's going on in the economy in the United States, in the politics of the United States, and quite frankly, of the world. So why do I bring all of that up? Well, first of all, it's going to affect everything, and it's going to continue to affect everything for the next 25 years. One of those is the wealth transfer. And we're not going to concentrate on the wealth transfer right now, but I want you to think about this when we're talking about it in the article I'm going to refer to here in a second. Almost 50% of U.S. wealth is now in the hands of baby boomers. Well, those folks are going to start dying because the oldest of the baby boomers are now 77, 78, already starting to die off. Obviously, people in their 70s do begin to die, even in their 60s, but certainly in their 70s, folks start to die. And so this group, as it moves through, they're going to be dying. They're going to be passing on their wealth to the next two generations. This is already happening. Some people are giving some of their wealth away with a warm hand rather than a cold hand. This is something my grandmother said years and years ago. So people are already giving some of this wealth to the next generation in terms of college scholarships, college money, or just general money to help buy a home, things like this. This is natural and normal, but the numbers are going to get way bigger. And it's impacting, obviously, the way that the next two generations think about their future. They know they've got not just their Social Security, but pensions or whatever, but they might also be getting large amounts of money from their beloved earlier generation who's going to be passing away and handing this money off. That's going to have an impact on the economy. I think it's going to have a massive impact on the economy, but that is something to talk about on another day. Let me share the screen now, and everybody knows how much I love sharing the screen because I always get it wrong, but let's see how fast I can get it done. Here we go. So we have the U.S. economy's secret weapon, seniors with money to spend. Americans 65 or older account for a record share of spending and are less susceptible to interest rates. So, why is consumer spending proven so resilient as the Federal Reserve has raised interest rates? Well, one part of that is a little appreciated reason: consumers are getting older. In August, 17.7% of the population was 65 or older, according to the Census Bureau, the highest on record going back to 1920, right after the First World War and the huge plague that was also in that same period of time, and up sharply from 13% in 2010. The elderly are just more numerous. Their finances are relatively healthy. They have less need to borrow, such as to buy a house, and are at less risk of layoffs and other consumers. What they don't add in here is that those same people between the ages now of 60 and 77, 78, or even older, if they own a business, the business is probably fine. The business probably has cash in the bank. They don't need to borrow. And we just saw those stats this morning where small businesses, only 2% of them were saying that they have any issue with trying to get the funding that they need to run their small business. They're just not interested in borrowing. They don't need it. So this is a radical change from when you have most of your small business owners in their 20s, 30s, and 40s who are just starting out, and the borrowing is a very important part of what they need to do. That was a shocking statistic to me. That was I don't usually see things that blow my mind. Only 2% of the members that were surveyed felt they had a problem getting the necessary loans in order to keep their businesses going. So this article goes on to say, this has made the elderly a spending force to be reckoned with. Americans aged 65 and up accounted for 22% of spending last year. Even though they're only 17.7% of the economy, they were spending 22% of the dough. The highest share since records began in 72 and up 15% since 2010, according to the Labor Department. These are consumers that will matter over the coming year, said this Susan Stern. Our large share of older consumers provides a consumption base in times like today when job growth slows, interest rates rise, and student debt repayments are beginning again. So while other younger folks might be struggling to, they don't have the kind of income to be able to handle these increases in interest rates, the increases in the cost of living, the increases in the rents, increases in the cost of gasoline, seniors are like, not all. Obviously, there are seniors that don't have a lot of wealth, but a huge percentage of seniors, they don't have a mortgage. The house is paid for. They're not going to move because they want to die in place, and they're not going to move into a smaller facility because their mortgage rate, if they have a mortgage, is only 3%. So it's either been paid off or they have a very low mortgage rate. So why move? They also are able to spend kind of as they wish. So we'll talk here in a minute. We'll talk about this in a minute. So here's the share of consumer spending by age group and the increase that's taking place. So note that the red one is 65 years and older, and take a look at this. You can see other groups are increasing or decreasing a little bit one way or the other. The 65 and older cadre is increasing dramatically. All right. So seniors' high spending propensities reflect health, wealth, and perhaps lingering psychological effects of the pandemic. So Maureen Green says, hey, all my life it was save for this, save for that. She's now 66. She says, now there's money in the bank and I'm spending it in ways that bring me closer to friends and family that I did before, and or travel, and or you have medical issues in this age group. And so you're going to spend more of it on medical situations. You're going to spend more of it on eating out. There's no way you're still interested in preparing large meals at home. So you're eating out or you're buying prepared foods. I say that the only thing that in our home purchases right now, there's only one kind of food that we buy, and that's food that can be prepared in the microwave. so Green says she's a real estate agent with 4 grown children living across the country. She's spending 25% more and twice as much time traveling compared to what she was doing in 2019 when she was still in her 50s. So to 1 million Americans who didn't survive COVID, the 1 million Americans who didn't survive COVID, who didn't survive, I think they made a mistake on that one. I don't know. She's worried about those who didn't survive. She's saying, I'm going to spend the money. All right. So the lifestyle of the senior has changed dramatically. They're more active than ever. That has expanded the menu of recreation on which to spend. They're riding e-bikes, they're hiking, they're traveling, and they're doing things like this longer than they've ever done it before. The median reported 12-month change in household spending by age group. Take a look again. Now, this time, the older group is in the blue. I'm sorry, here we go, over 60. And you can see what's happening with the spending. During COVID went way, way up, just like everybody else, but even more so, and has only slightly tailed off after COVID. Because why? Let me give you one example. The Social Security increases each year are a lagging amount. So during the course of the year, when all of those expenses are going up like they did in 2022, it's cutting in. If you're limited income and your Social Security the new numbers haven't come in yet, and you're paying more at the grocery store and more for gas, that's all cutting into that spending ability. But then all of a sudden, in January, when it all changes, that went up. I forget what it was, something like 8 or 9%, like 8% last year. That's a very nice raise. So now you've got the whole year to spend that with this year with inflation only going up around 3 or 4%. So you can see where it's not as necessary to cut back for those seniors as it was for the other groups. All right, so then the average household led by somebody 65 or older spent 2.7% more last year than in 2021. That's adjusted for inflation. So spending by older households is up 34% compared to 1982, and also compared to 16.5% for younger households. Comparable data isn't available yet this year, of course. All right, let's see here. The growing end to spend by elderly is amplified by their sheer numbers. The unusually large cohort of baby boomers, the youngest which are now 59, are reaching their retirement years en masse. American Cruise Line, which gears its cruises towards older consumers, yeah, duh, said it is seeing double-digit sales growth this year, driven largely by boomers. Earlier today, one of the airlines, I'm forgetting which one, came out with their numbers, and they said their numbers were up 60% for the last quarter. The Guilford, Connecticut company added 3 ships to its fleet. Okay, let's see, go down here. River cruising has become a big deal. Seniors really love river cruising, so that's becoming a big, big thing. Another factor in the elderly's favor, relatively strong finances. Americans aged 70 and older now hold nearly 26, I said 50%. That's 70 and older. No, that's right. Okay, no. So we go down to 60 or older, it's a much bigger percentage. They're probably not going to give that here, but 70 and older hold 26% of all household wealth, the highest since records began. While economists still see a relatively high probability of recession in the coming year, Ed Yardeni, president and chief investment strategist at Yardeni Research, isn't one of them. An important reason, by the Ford's reckoning, baby boomers alone have now amassed $77 trillion in wealth. That's a $77 trillion wide hole in the theory that consumers running out of pandemic savings will sink the economy's head. And of course, if you follow my channel, you know the Bank of America says that consumers in general have plenty of money in their savings and in their checking accounts, enough to last them all through the end of next summer. Those statistics that were showing the opposite of that have just been revised in the last few days, like all government statistics right now. Those were revised the last couple of days to show, no, consumers still have plenty of cash. So these seniors have less consumer debt, minimal student debt, are more likely to own their own home outright. Many of those who have mortgages refinanced at these really low rates. They're also less likely to move, as I just said a few minutes ago. Share of household wealth held by adults 70 or up. Look at this chart. Oh my gosh. So you can see it's just going up like a rocket. It's not going to slow down. That's going to continue to happen. Retirees also received, here it is, an 8.7% cost of living adjustment to bump Social Security last year. So these factors of cushions, and by the way, it's only going to be 3.5 coming up in this year, at the end of this year in January, but next year's inflation rate is going to be deflation. If you watch this channel, you know that's my opinion. These factors have cushioned seniors from the twin scourges of inflation and high interest rates, and since most of them are retired, senior spending is less vulnerable to the rise in unemployment, and seniors are not spending money on the things that have been most affected, like, well, they are on the travel side, of course, which has been affected, but on things like food and gasoline and oil, no, less effect. So subscription demand for the Cincinnati Opera Summer Festival this year was surprisingly strong, driven by older patrons. Yeah, who goes to the opera? I do, older patrons. All right. So what we're looking at here is a demographic change that is going to be massive for years to come. And this is where people that don't do demographics are missing out. People that are not willing to do the numbers and see where are the demographic impacts going to take place. What is the demographic impact of people not getting married till they're 27? What's the demographic impact of people not getting married at all? What's the demographic impact of families having an average of one child, of childbearing age women having an average of one child or less? These demographic impacts are going to be massive to the economy into the future. One of the things to think about, there's going to come a time when, just like Japan, housing prices will not continue to just keep going up because there's not going to be new household formations to take over the ones from the seniors that are dying. That's going to happen probably by 2045 at the latest. You're not going to be able to say, oh, you know, my real estate holdings are the thing that I'm going to count on, because Japan, those real estate holdings have come down by half in the last 30 years since their demographic change. So I hope that I've encouraged you, hopefully that the economy is going to do better. The economy doing better in the short term and the medium and even long term because of the senior wealth and kind of the backdrop. In other words, even if the economy would be struggling, the seniors are going to keep that from being an issue because they can spend money even in a difficult situation. Businesses having money because there's not an issue with having enough money. Those businesses have been around for a very long time. Businesses are now going into second generations, and second generation business owners are managers, and they usually do better in terms of managing the business and the income and keeping things on an even tilt. All of these things suggest a very good long-term economy. Good long-term economy means another bull, maybe like the 2 or 3 that we've seen in the last 30 years that last 9, 10, 11 years without a recession interrupting them. I think there's downsides. We just talked about real estate downside. There could be downsides in terms of other aspects of, I'm having a hard, I consider myself to be a futurist. I look at these demographics and I'm like, what are the other downsides? Will the third generation, forgetting the name of the Y generation, will the Y generation just not think like, hey, there's going to be plenty of money by the time my grandparents die, my parents die, I'm gonna be loaded. Is that gonna keep them from having much incentive at all? I'm already seeing people that are in their 50s and 50s starting businesses, but the incentive to make them work, not there. these are some of my clients. I've seen it over and over again. Yeah, you know, if I make $50,000 or $60,000 a year, that's fine. If I don't, it doesn't matter. I've got pension income, or I've got my spouse is working. The medical is paid for by the spouse's job. It's an issue. It's an issue. So let me know in the comments below. Are these things that you think about? It's going to be very good for Tesla stock because people are going to be able to buy Teslas. People are going to travel, and when they travel, they're going to want to use Teslas. And of course, once we have the robotaxis, seniors who maybe are not still feeling confident and comfortable driving, they're going to be using robotaxis. They're going to be able to get around like no seniors have gotten around in any time in the past. So an interesting future ahead of us. I think so. I think the next leg of the bull is in place. I think that Tesla is fundamentally on amazingly solid ground. And I think we can look forward to a fantastic next year, and 2025 and 2026, even more amazing. So if you liked this presentation, please hit like, hit subscribe, hit notify for whatever it is that I'm doing tomorrow at midday. Maybe I still have to prepare something for tomorrow at midday. I'm not sure, but you want to definitely hear Larry Goldberg and I talk about the week in review tomorrow in the late afternoon, or maybe that'll be in the middle afternoon. Maybe that's the one. I don't know. It's probably going to be around 3 o'clock California time that Larry and I talk. And then join Patreon. Thank you so much. We had multiple people joining Patreon today. I did make a pretty significant plea this morning saying, look, this is a 40-hour-a-week job. And if you're getting something from this and you could afford it, it's not going to mess up your income, $5 or $10 a month in order to get those news breaks over on Patreon, as well as to support, to be a producer, to be somebody who's helping out the channel. That would just be lovely. All right. Oh yeah. Don't forget to buy your cyber truck. I can't find it. Okay. Oh, there it is. There's the camo version up there on the shelf. How am I pointing anywhere close to it? There we go. There's the cyber truck there. $25. You send it to paypal.me/Randy Kirk. Phenomenal gift for yourself or for somebody else. $25. Multiplies that times however many. Had somebody today buy 3 of them going to Europe someplace. I forget. You have to add another $20 if you're outside the United States, because I do have a fairly substantial freight bill if it goes outside the United States. Okay, that's it. I hope that this was useful, and we'll be seeing you bright and early tomorrow morning. And it's been great talking to you today.